Hi guys, and welcome back to the Big Sew Along. I'm Ginny, and today we are going to be talking about my new dress, which is the one we self-drafted 2 weeks ago. Today I'm going to show you how to put it together, although I will say it's pretty straightforward, so I think for a lot of you guys it'll be kind of redundant. So I'm going to put what's it called, timestamps below, so you can fast forward through anything that you don't want to watch. Before we get to that, I apologize for not being here last week. I was out with the flu. Yeah, I went to the doctor maybe a month ago and I got a flu shot and a pneumonia shot. So I don't know how I ended up getting so sick. It might not have actually been the flu. It could have just been a really bad cold. But I was literally in bed for 3.5 days. Yeah, so I got nothing done in terms of sewing, and I certainly was not in a situation to be making any videos. The other thing is, I don't know if you guys can tell, I have a new backdrop. I know you can tell that. My mom was here a couple of weeks ago and she brought me this backdrop, which I think is really good because I'm not that worried about my backdrop. I'm a little worried about my hair today. But my lighting in here is really blinding, and so for the ever since I moved into this space, I've noticed that whenever I do a video, I have like this weird shadow that casts over my eyes. So anyways, I put a diffuser thing over my light, which helped a little, and I think this helps a little as well. Also, it saves you guys from having to see all the wreck that is my sewing room at the moment. So, yeah, so I have a few things to say about this dress in terms of alterations and things that I made and some other ideas for it. But before we get to that, I'm going to go ahead and do the tutorial here, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little more about it. Let me just say that there's a part in this tutorial where I'm talking about making the center panel narrower and the side panels wider, and the reason I did that is to move this seam right here further over so it's more over the center of my bust line. I don't say why I'm doing that in the video, so that's why I'm doing it. Anyways, we're going to start here with how I drafted the hem facing, and then it'll go on to putting the rest of the dress together. Like I said, timestamps are below if you need them. Okay, so this is the hem of our pattern of both pieces, and I realized that because we have a tulip hem that's going to go up like this, we're either going to need to, I think the easiest way to hem it is to either just put a binding on it or to put a facing. And hopefully you can see I've made a mark right across here at 3 inches. And then I traced that off onto some tissue paper, like that. And then I cut off a 1/2 inch from the inside edge of each. So this should line up like this, less a 1/2 inch over here, and this one lines up over here, less a 1/2 inch over here. And then I'm just going to take those two and tape them together. Just butt them right up against each other. And then this edge I'm going to cut on the center front, and we're going to cut 2 of those, so one for the front and one for the back. Okay, so this is my pattern. You can see this is my altered pattern. And just so you guys can see, this is the side panel. I added 2 inches to this edge on my side panel, and I subtracted 2 inches from the inside edge on my center panel. So that means that up here at the top, this is pretty narrow now. So originally we were going to cut this on the fold and this on the fold and just have one main center piece that made your front and your back. Since this is narrower now and your neckline takes up most of the space, it didn't really make any sense. Because I narrowed my panel, I also narrowed my neckline, which I wanted to do. I hope you can see that. The original was over here. And so now I'm just cutting 2 of these on the center fold. So center front and center back will be right here. And then this edge I'm just going to cut out, and because of that, I hope you can see, I ended up having to add a seam allowance to this little bit here so that we can sew those together at the top. Okay, a little confusing, but I hope that worked. The other thing is, I did narrow my underarm right here. I know it's hard to tell on this pattern because this piece that's laying on top doesn't have seam allowances. So I'm going to show you my muslin. This is my muslin, and I felt like it was just still a little too wide in the across the front. So I hope you can see here. Let's see if I can see it better. Yeah, you can see it better on this side. This was my original stitching line, and I moved this over about 1/2 inch right at the deepest part of my underarm, and then I just tapered it out to nothing, so it goes into pretty much a straight line at the sleeve, and then I tapered it out to nothing down here at the side, and it came down quite a ways in order for me to do that, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter. There's plenty of ease in there. So taking out 1/2 inch here means that I removed about a total of 2 inches. So instead of having 6 inches of ease in the bust, I now have 4, and I am definitely happier with that. Okay, the only other thing I did to my original pattern was, you can see it on this one, I shortened it, I think I shortened it 2 inches or maybe 2.5. It looks like 2.5 inches. So now, in order to put this together, we need to do our neckline. On my original muslin, I measured where I wanted my front neckline to be, and I measured it 6 inches down from this edge, and it seemed like that would be good at 6 inches. When I put it on, it seemed a little lower than I wanted it. So I'm going to make this one 4 inches. I'm going to put it right here. I can always make it bigger. I'm just going to make a mark right there. I want this mark to be a straight line for about just like 1/2 inch. And then I'm just going to take my curvy ruler and match up this edge of that mark. It's not going to lay flat against here because it's a curve. And this edge with the edge of my neckline. Let's get rid of this for a second. And I think it looks good like that. So that is going to be my front neckline. And then this one will remain my back neckline. Now, for this one, you can either do a bias binding or make yourself a facing. I haven't decided yet which I'm going to do. I don't think I have enough to make bias binding, so we'll see. Let's just get this together first. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut out my front neckline. I'm going to go ahead and put a little notch here right at the center front just because we'll need that later. Then the front and the back we're going to assemble exactly the same way. These are our 2 side pieces. I'm going to put them right sides together. So let's put this one down on this side and pin it in place. Okay, we're going to sew that long edge down and press that seam, finish it and press it. Then we're going to open this up. That will be one side done. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Put that down this side and sew it down. And then you're going to make your back piece exactly the same. You're going to start with your center back piece and sew each side to the side, each side panel to the sides. Okay, so now we have both our back and our front put together. We're just going to put these right sides together. And sew our shoulder seams from here to here on both sides. Okay, there's our front and back sewn together. And just so you're aware, when you're sewing these shoulder seams, try to match up your stitching lines, your seam lines from the front to the back on these panels so they look nice. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just put on our sleeves, and we're going to open this out so it looks like this. That's right side up. And we're going to take our sleeve and put it right side down. And we are just going to match it up along this edge. Now we're just going to go ahead and sew that, finish that seam, and press it. And when it's done, it will look like this side right here. So now really all we have to do is our side seams. You're just going to turn this right sides together and sew the side seams from the hem all the way up around the underarm. If you're putting on pockets, then that's what you're going to do next. Is I put a little notch here in the side of mine where the top of my pocket was supposed to go. When you're working on your pattern, you may want to put that in there somewhere. I don't actually have enough of this fabric to make a pocket, but you're just gonna see if I have my other one here. The easiest way to do this is just to place this side seam over your ironing board and pin your pocket in place. Just make sure you've got it centered. You can see where I put like a little fold in my pocket to make sure it was going to fit right. Pin it down and then go sew those on. The last things we're going to do are our hems and facings. On this one, I've just given myself a 1-inch hem on the sleeves, so it just gets folded up and stitched down. I showed you before how I made the facing for the hem, and I've decided on this one that I will do a facing for the neckline as well. And the way I'm going to do that is this, my pattern has a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Yours may be different than that. It doesn't matter what your seam allowance is. You just need to match these two pieces up at the seam allowance. Mine is going to be, I'm going to match mine up at this edge. The edge of one is going to match up with this 1-inch line I have right here. And that is a 1/2 inch seam allowance for each side. So when I put this together, and I'm not going to pin it all the way down, all we need is the neckline. We just want to be sure it's staying straight. So this is going to go right here. I'm just going to pin it in place. And then I'm going to take a, maybe one more pin. I'm going to take another piece of paper and put over this. I'm just going to lay it right over the top like this. My paper is not quite square. If your paper is square, you can just match it up with this line right here, your shoulder seam, and the front of your dress here. Mine is not even, so I'm just going to put it like that. And all I'm going to trace is, this shoulder edge is even with my shoulder on the dress, so that's fine. I'm just going to trace my back neckline here over to the side edge. And that's the edge of my dress. And I don't need to go all the way down. I just want it to be maybe 3 inches down. And yeah, that looks good. Now, I'm going to get my pattern out of the way. And I'm going to get my ruler. And I'm going to make my facings 3 inches. It doesn't have to be 3 inches. I just like them to be 3 inches. I like them to be nice and wide. Don't go too narrow, because remember, part of this is going to be a seam allowance, so you're going to lose part of that. And I'm just going to match it like this all the way around. Like that. And then draw this in. And this will be my back facing piece. This, we're going to cut on the fold. And then we're just going to do the same thing with the front piece. So our hem facings should look like this, more or less. Mine is not very even. I'm going to put these right sides together and sew both ends. And then I am going to press the seams, and I'm going to finish this bottom edge. On mine, I'm going to finish it with the serger. Oops, no, not the bottom edge. I'm going to finish this top edge, the narrower edge. I'm going to finish mine with the serger. You can do yours however you like. And then we're going to do the same thing with the neck facing, which looks like this. This is my back piece. These are, of course, going right sides together. So that's the, there we go, that's the back. This is the front. We're going to put these together, and on the neck facing, we are going to finish the outer edge of our facing with serging or by hemming, however you like. This edge right around here. So actually I had that right the first time. The edge that gets serged on your hem is actually the whiter edge, because it goes like that. Anyways, so you can see I've managed, I had to serge both of mine. Anyways, we're going to place these, the hem facing right sides together with the bottom of our dress. Sewn down, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see, I did do an edge stitch around the bottom to keep this from peeking out of the bottom. The only thing is that because this edge is narrower than this edge, when you fold this up to the wrong side to do your final stitching, you may find that you need to do some clipping into the seam allowance here, just depending on how stiff or how much give your fabric has. This one is a really lightweight silk. It's not very stiff, and I used a really lightweight interfacing in my hem, so I was able to do it without making any snips, but just be aware that you may need to do that. So that is it for this, and then you're going to apply your neck facing the exact same way. All you have left to do is hem your sleeves. Okay, so that is our linen love dress, which I'm now going to start calling this the Linda love dress, because it's based on Linda's dress from the Slow Wardrobe, and I don't really want to capitalize on anybody else's marketing, so we're just going to call it the Linda love dress. From here forward, if that's what I refer to, you know what I'm talking about. So I really, really like the way this dress came out, and I feel like I have a lot of other things I want to do with this pattern. I definitely want to work on a pinafore, or here in the US we usually call it a jumper, but in the UK I think you guys would call it a tabard maybe, or a smock, little over thing that's sleeveless. I also definitely have some ideas for pants, although not exactly like Linda's pants, but things that would work for us very similarly. So if you guys are interested in seeing those things, please leave me a message below and let me know. I'm currently working on this exact same dress in a really hot pink silk, and I think it is it's either a China silk or a crepe de chine. Sorry, still getting over this cold. I think it's a China silk, because crepe de chine usually has like a pebbly, like crepey texture, and this fabric doesn't. So the other thing is, I know I told you guys last month that I watched, I took this online class with Alice and her daughter Lilia from Alice & Co Patterns. They're doing this whole series on fashion history, and half of the class is them talking about the history, and the other half is them talking about how you can draft things based on those historical garments. So this last week was the Middle Ages, and I found it fascinating. Sorry, this is... I apologize. So this last week was the Middle Ages, and they were talking about specifically a garment called a kirtle, which turns out to be pretty much this dress that we just made. And they had other, like, watching that, they had so many other details and things that were added in the Middle Ages to make it a fancier garment or a more of an underwear garment, all kinds of things. I have a bunch of things planned to make for this fall, but now, since I saw that class and since I made this, I've just been really inspired to play with this particular pattern and see what else I can do with it. So we'll see. I think that may be what we're doing for next week, or I might just do like a video next week about the things I've been working on. I think that is all for this week, although I will say I haven't talked about this for a while. I'm just gonna, oh, I forgot to tell you guys, I don't know if I have pictures. Yeah. So here is a picture of me in the original muslin of my Linda Love dress before I made the neckline. And here's an up-close picture of it. You can see in this picture I've drawn a line where that front seam is, that over the bust seam. And then here is a second picture of me in the dress I'm wearing today, with the line drawn again where that seam is, just so you can see the difference between the two. And then here are a couple of pictures of me in my current dress, which I am really, really, really happy with. Okay, so what was I gonna say? So I think, yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do next week, but I know what I was gonna say. I haven't talked about this for a while, but if you guys haven't been watching or listening to Haptic and Hue podcast, she's out with a new one. I am currently, what am I looking, The Life of Secondhand Clothes, which I think is actually, gosh, the Life of Secondhand Clothes is the one she did in August, so I'm a few episodes behind. But if you haven't listened to it yet, The Life of Secondhand Clothes is fascinating. It's really, really good. I also have some new patterns and stuff to talk to you about. I have 2 new taco magazines and a couple of other things. So maybe we'll talk about that stuff next week, and then we'll continue working on our Linda Love dress. Sorry, I'm a little bit rambling today because I'm not quite over this cold. Yeah. All right, guys, so I think that is it for me this week. If any of you make one of these dresses, the Linda Love dress, please let me know. Send me a picture if you can. You can always contact me in the messages below, or on Instagram, or on Facebook. And I will leave links to both of my pages to those places below. As always, I thank you guys so very much for spending some time with me. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate that you guys show up every week. And I love hearing from you guys, so please feel free to leave me any comments below. Also, regarding comments, let me know how you think the dress turned out in terms of how it compares to Linda's original Linen Love dress. With that, I am going to leave you guys all with a couple of pictures of Claude, who is happy to pose for his fans. And until next week, happy sewing.